Hello, everyone. Let's start. All right. So everybody can hear me okay? All good? Hear me and see me okay? All right. Um, welcome. This is our second resume review. We are trying it for the first time this week. And what it's meant to do is for us to basically give a little bit of a preview into um, what type of resumes are helpful in helping you get through the recruiter filters, hiring manager filters, and get you that first call. So if you are in the process of, even if you have already a prepared resume and you have already applied to a bunch of places, there's always improvements you can make to it and just increase your acceptance rate. So the format for this would be we roughly spend between 10 and 15 minutes per person, one by one. And what we did last time was everybody kind of put their resumes as either attachments or links in the chat. And then I spend about somewhere between 10, 12 minutes per person. And we go through not the entire resume, but basically whatever questions you have about your resume. Any questions before we start? No questions? All right. If not, then what I would invite is for everybody attending to put through their resume into the chat, and I'll kind of go through them in the order in which they are put in the chat. First one goes first. Sound good? All right, I'll give everybody a minute to do that. All right, I think, Mark, we have you up first. So I've also shared a link to the document that I'll use for our notes and our discussion today. So we can get started with you, Mark. Yohai's will be coming in later. And then Pawan, I noticed you just joined after I gave my overview. So what we are doing is, Pawan, everybody's putting in their resume in the chat, and then everybody would get roughly 10 minutes or so for them to ask any specific question. You won't be able to go through a full resume in 10 minutes. That will usually take like an hour or more of a private session. But 10 minutes per resume, roughly. So put in your resume through here in the chat. So Mark, we'll get started with yours. All right, so tell me what questions you have about it, and we'll go.
I've got from previous session that I need to rebuild my bullet points. I've tried, but probably I need to polish them more to make sure, like I can still fit all those qualifications and all those my keywords that I want to be mentioned, still make sentences shorter. In general, you told that we should start the resume from work experience.
Mm-hmm.
And I've got a lot of different templates, a lot of different opinions that, let's say, the resume should start with some summary, and then let's say outline some personal interests just to grab attention of the interviewer, and then like mention work experience. So you probably you told me that it's better start right away from work experience. So what kind of approach? And I was trying to think like reverse engineering how the the person will read my resume and what kind of
Mhm.
thoughts and ideas he or she
All right.
will get.
So we'll start with you, Mark. Um, and just for everybody, I will also create a section called takeaways in our document that you can refer to. So mark questions and then notes. All right. So first question is order in which
Yes.
to organize a resume. And then the second question is generally speaking, what are recruiters and hiring managers looking for in the resume, in the way the bullets are worded? Is that accurate?
Yes. And the
All right.
third question about education and certifications. Should I
Mhm.
mention only the most important one, or should I mention, let's say, some certificates and some activities that could help, could influence?
Got it. Okay. So these are all easy questions, and I'll keep the answers to them short. So order in which to organize the resume. I would say as long as you have work experience, education
Mhm.
in the resume, um, everything else is sort of secondary. So if you
Mhm.
have the order in which you start with education first, or start with interests first, as a reviewer, I will, and a lot
Switch
of
to work
people
experience, right?
in the big tech, they will basically start by reading the work experience.
Mhm.
So I don't think it's really a big ding or a red flag if the order is not work experience first, because either way, I'll go and read the work experience first. I mean, what it's telling me as a reader is that the order in which you have it is the order in which you want me to read it. So you want me to read your outline, you want me to read your interests next, and you want me to read your experience after that. But if that doesn't line up with how I want to read the resume, I'll just straight away go to what I care about most, which first of all will be work experience. And even within work experience, what recruiters, hiring managers, what they'll read first is just the titles of the job that you had. What type of progression you've had? Do they recognize any of the places you worked or not? And if it's
Mhm.
something which is way too out of the blue and not something that they're looking for, then they won't even read the bullets, right?
Mhm. Okay.
So up to you. The standard style is you start with experience, education, and then end with interests slash. Um, I just use the term additional again, um, not a hard and fast rule. All right, just a stylistic rule. All right. Second question is, all right. So this is a big question. What are recruiters, hiring managers looking for in the way the bullets are worded? Um, okay. So I think I covered some of this in our session earlier, but the first thing is basically what have you accomplished, right? What are your accomplishments? That's kind of the first thing I'm looking for. And then within those accomplishments, if I don't get reasons I won't get a sense of your accomplishments is if you have enlisted your job responsibilities. Enlisting job responsibilities do not convey work accomplishments.
Accomplishments. All right.
Yeah. So first is that. The second is basically, I'm looking for certain active verbs which align with the role that you have. So for instance, if the role that you're looking for is a pretty senior role, and even if it's IC role, it does require you to start managing people within 1 or 2 years. I'm looking for basically active verbs like the first word that starts a bullet, like led or manage, etc. I'm looking for some of those things as well. So looking for basically active verbs that align with success in the job. So in order to do that, what we try is, because we're not going to make a different resume for every job, right? What we try to do is to have coverage for different types of bullets. So I use this. Okay, so first takeaway of today, I would put here is coverage for LACTED. Okay, so leadership, analysis. So basically, being data driven. Collaboration. Collaboration is things that happen across functions. Teamwork is basically within your teams, like working with engineers, etc. So I speak about collaboration and teamwork a little differently. Being entrepreneurial, which means basically, do you take initiatives or do you wait for, wait to be told what to be done? And last is, sorry, I wanted to say analytical. Analytical, second one is basically problem solving, like solving problems. And then D is basically just being good with data. So in your bullet, so go through this list, and with each bullet should have clear takeaway that and that clear takeaway for each of the bullet should cover one of these 6. So you could have a resume where everything is very analytical and you just don't have anything which shows leadership, right? You could have a resume where everything is leadership, but it doesn't have anything about analytical problem solving, right? So so the more data points you provide, like if you're somebody who's already very strong on data, right? You have a very analyst type of background, and all your bullets are just covering how good you are with data, like they're all about analysis, then you're not covering things like problem solving or leadership. So you want to make sure that there's coverage for that as well.
Okay, makes sense.
All right. All right, last question that you had is education and certifications, all or just the most relevant ones. So have the most relevant ones. Just keep less is more. Keep the most relevant ones. Don't try to have a full list. Right. All right. So Mark, we are coming up on our time, so I am going to switch over. Do you have any last questions before I do?
how many bullet points should be in every position?
Yeah. Assuming you have spent at least 2 years in each positions, I would say minimum would be 3, maximum would be like 7 or 8. Nobody's gonna read past 7th bullet, honestly, even if it's like a very long career. If it's less than 2 years, let's say it's only like 1 year, then I think it's okay to have like 2 bullets.
Yeah.
Okay.
In last question, okay, I have 2 positions that covered, let's say, 6 years and 7 years of experience, so which is like very long period. And probably in this format, in 1-page resume, I cannot fit more experiences. What would you recommend, like to do 2 pages of resume or still stick to 1-page resume?
I would not do 2 pages. What I would do is I would remove the summary. I would try to work any of those data points within your work experience. Basically what you have, the summary I would remove. I would also reduce interest to just basically a single line. I would remove all certifications and just keep basically 2-liners for your undergrad degree and any grad degree.
So basically remove all certifications and add more work experience, right?
If you have,
Yeah,
if you
sure,
have
I
more
have.
to share.
But is that
Yeah.
so those kind of certification, they are not relevant, you think so?
Unless you have any which are super relevant, but for PM jobs, certifications are not as going to be as highly relevant. What people are looking for, what hiring managers for PMs are looking for, is just what products you have built and shipped. Really. That's really what's most important.
Got it.
Yeah. Cool. All right, Mark, let me move on and then we can come back to you if we have any time left.
Thank you.
All right,
Thank
next
you.
I have, no worries. Thank you. Thanks for sharing. Leo, I clicked through the link, but I don't have access to it.
Oh, do you request it? Because I don't have any restriction on it.
Let me request. Okay, I requested it.
Okay.
And then while we are getting Leo's resume, I think Punit, Yohai, and Pawan, I haven't received yours yet. So if you want to send it over, you can spend some time on it.
Yeah, I just give the
All right, I got it. Great. Well, go blue. I'm also University of Michigan grad degree. All right, so I definitely recognize this format. As
oh, really?
Yeah. All right, so tell me.
Yeah, so nice to meet you. Visha, my name is Hannah, and I am an incoming master student at Columbia. So as you can see, my resume is kind of so first of all, I haven't drafted my PM resume yet because I was applying to data scientist related job, and this is a resume towards those kind of positions. And I'm transiting from data scientist to product management jobs for next year. As for the transition, I'm just wondering how could I formulate my current resume and to emphasize some points or experience so that make it more product management related. Yeah, that's basically my question.
Got it. All right. Any other questions you have?
Um, I guess that's it about the resume.
Okay. And you have been, okay, 18 through 22. So you were working, are these internship positions in Bank of China and Homeside Insurance?
Yeah, these are internship and co-op experiences. I don't have
Okay,
any full-time because I
got it.
went, yeah, I go to grad school right after my college.
Yeah. All right, sounds good. So, all right. So I think first of all, you should have a separate. If you're applying for non-PM jobs and PM jobs, I would say have a separate PM resume
Mhm.
where you focus on all the product management relevant stuff. Okay, so let's see. I think because you don't have full-time experience, basically what you can, and I see you already doing that, is kind of highlight your highlight certain signals which give a hiring manager signals that you're, very interested in product roles, and then and you have, you've been working towards that. The other thing that you can highlight is basically if you have done any software engineering work. So right now, I see there is a lot of emphasis and work that you've done in, sort of capacity of analysis. Either as an analyst, even your projects are very much are all sort of quantitative analysis, right?
Yes.
Nothing wrong with that, but if there are any things that you can highlight which shows your sort of diversification outside analysis to more, like customer research, working more qualitative stuff, doing some, product design, etc., like that. If you have certain things in your projects or internships, those will give that a little bit more of more data points to the hiring manager that, hey, otherwise, I think the risk is if you use the same resume is that hiring managers and recruiters, primarily in your case, hiring managers would not be looking at college recruiting. Only recruiters look at college recruiting. Is that they might walk away with the impression that, hey, you're basically trying to become a quantitative sort of analyst or a data scientist, and maybe you're not. It's not your plan A to become a PM. So you just want to avoid that, right? You can't really invent jobs that you've done in the past, but it's just a question of highlighting those things. So if you have anything like that, and even giving signals, there are other ways in which you can give those signals. Projects is a good one always because that's under your control. You can talk about, certain like product analysis type of projects or customer research where you are talking to customers, etc. The other place would be in your additionals. If there are certain, courses, product management courses, they'll be like a very easy, signal to provide that, you're formally training yourself in product management. Others would be essentially reading/listening materials. If you subscribe to any Substacks or any podcasts which product people listen to, and there is a lot of them. Certain like recognizable ones. I think just those things just give a little bit more evidence that, hey, Hannah is, doing a lot to learn about product management.
So when you mentioned that we can do podcasts or reading or like tutorial stuff to emphasize
or books,
yeah, and emphasize that we're working towards a product manager job. But how could you emphasize that point on a resume?
Additionals. So in additionals, you can have one bullet for like books, podcasts, etc. Basically, things you do to keep yourself abreast with product management.
Okay. After hearing your suggestions, I do have some follow-up questions. So when you said that we should focus more on the quality and impact of the job, of my experiences, etc. I'm just wondering what kind of quality or that you're looking for when you're scanning through a PM job for entry level.
Yeah, I think one of the first, I think one thing that'll be helpful for me as a hiring manager or as a recruiter would be, is Hannah, like customer empathy is really important for PMs, and any kind of customer research or being embedded with customers in context of a job or an internship or a project, which really helps you to discover customer needs and being able to articulate those within an organization. I think those things will be helpful.
Okay, I see. So when you say that product related project, you mean like product analysis related product, or
I think of it as anything that helps you understand or spend time with or research customers and customer behavior. So there's quantitative analysis, which I think you already have quite a bit of it. But what I would like to get some signals on is this Hannah, is she doing things which show me she has like customer empathy and it doesn't have to be spending time with customers. It's just like studying customers. And it can be in context of even like a project, right? Like a independent study or any side project or side hustle, or could be anything.
So should I include any quantitative aspect on a resume, or just not at all?
I would no, you should have quantitative. I think that's clearly your strength. But I would say don't make it like 90% of your resume. It's like, so even if it's like half.
Yeah.
I really like some certain things here, like your development of the Django app. All those things are quite useful. I would say if you can keep it half between like quantitative work, all analysis, maybe 25% of software development, like you have around development, and then 25% around just customers, or just talk about customers. I think that'll be a good mix. Again, I'm just spitballing, but it'll give me enough of a signal to say that, hey, let's talk to Hannah.
All right. Thank you so much.
Yeah, no worries. All right, Hannah, thank you. We are gonna move on next to Yohai. Hey, Yohai.
Hi there. Can you hear me?
I can. How are you? Been a while.
It's been a while.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. So I have your resume up here. So tell me a little bit about what you're looking for, questions-wise.
In terms of resume review, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I think one of my biggest thing is basically it's transition from for most of my career, it's kind of I had 4 years in supply chain consulting, helping change management and so on, and then 10 years as a project manager, but it was a startup situation, so doing a lot of different things where I actually kind of implemented a lot of product related things. So that's the interest in product management. And so so my thing is kind of trying to transition to PM role. So that's one big thing. And I was just kind of hearing what you were saying earlier. And I think I did have a chance, you mentioned about customer empathy. So I was just wondering if I should include more of that. I had a lot of interaction with, I actually met like 400 plus customers. And, so we all kind of knew, as a company, we all knew everyone, all the customers really well. And also in both of my main roles, I had a lot of interaction within the company as well, working cross-functionally. So maybe should I include more of that, or if you have any general advice, that would be really good as well, I think.
Yeah. Okay. Sounds good. Well, thank you for sharing, first of all.
Yeah. No, thank you. Yeah. For your help.
Okay. So I think with everything, just like with everything, it's best to play to your strengths, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of nobody like starts as a product manager after their undergrad or grad degree, right? Like they do something different first. Like software engineering is very common, but consulting, completely non-traditional things like their teachers, etc., and then they move into product management. So I would say it's not unusual to not have PM experience on your resume before. Now, that said, there's something to be said about playing to your strengths and having those strengths kind of come out naturally without you having to use words to explain what those strengths are, right? So I think in your case, a few things without reading your full resume, I would say that come out is just a tremendous amount of customer interaction and delivering projects which deliver customer value. Now, whether it's through product management itself or not, or more as a strategic business leader, that's besides the point. But just being in that, having built this muscle for understanding customer needs and responding to those customer needs with solutions is an important one. So one of the things I will do with your resume is to work the titles a little bit of project manager and marketing and project leader and strategy consultant to titles which are not too far removed from your actual titles, but they kind of communicate that story a little bit. The second strength that I see here is also basically handling the execution of complex projects across functional boundaries, right? So I think if you emphasize on those two things, I think both of those things are quite relevant for product management, and then you focus on PM roles which require a high amount of customer interaction, customer empathy, spending a lot of time with customers, customer research, as well as cross-functional collaboration, as opposed to being a highly technical PM or being a platform PM. Yeah, I think yeah, those strengths should kind of scream from just doing a very quick read of the resume, and then just being very upfront about those super clear takeaways. So whenever I always say that every resume bullet is meant to have a takeaway, and when you're writing the resume, that takeaway should be in your um, should be very clear to you what takeaway you want, and you should write it accordingly. The bullet to have that takeaway. It's less to, because you can never really tell a full story in 3 sentences or 3 lines or 2 lines for that matter. But what you can do is you can create enough of an intrigue in and have a clear takeaway by serving somebody a couple of sentences which has enough of keyword matching, so to speak. Yeah, so those will be some things I would say. And then I think you have some really strong results here with respect to business outcomes. I think those are very, very useful things to have as well. Now, the question is, I think some of these results I'm seeing are really around the performance of the company, not maybe directly linked to the performance of your project or your products. So that's something I would focus on more.
Right. Okay. So you'd rather see the actual performance of the actual projects that I've worked on.
Yeah.
Exactly. Okay. Okay. Great.
Right,
yeah.
let's make this the last question, and then we'll move on to.
Okay. So yeah, thank you very much for the feedback. That's very encouraging. So I'll take all those points in. One, yeah, sorry, I've just 2 specific questions. One is you mentioned about titles, communicating the story. So do you mean just change or modify the titles so that it fits the whatever role that I'm applying to, or
more, yeah, I'm assuming you want to apply for product manager jobs, so I would align the title so they tell the story that you want, right? So what I don't want to know, I would prefer not to take the takeaway that UI is trying a bunch of different things, from general management to marketing. It's hard to tell if you want to be
I see. Okay,
a business person, a marketer, or a consultant, or a project manager. So I would just
have one kind of
the titles are basically telling a story of what you're trying to do. So just be mindful of those.
Okay, so kind of there's like one underlining story is kind of what I'm hearing from you.
Yeah, and you should feel free to exercise a little bit of freedom. You shouldn't, of course, state things which are not true. But as long as the title kind of reflects your actual job, I think that's fine. And because titles are very inconsistent, different companies have different titles. So you want to use industry standard terms which also tell the story that you want to convey.
Thank you very much. Yeah. Okay, great.
Thanks, Yohai.
Okay, great.
Move on
Thank you
to Punit. Yeah, no worries. Hi, Punit.
Yeah, hi, Visha. So my question is, first of all, like how can I reflect a balance between that I have the customer empathy and also that I'm technically oriented, since the work would also involve, talking to a lot of engineering teams or other stakeholders. So this is the first thing, and I think last time we did discuss the structure. So in the accomplishment section of my resume, I would look forward to, shall I reduce it or keep it the same as it is currently? This is my second question. Maybe first we can discuss this and then move forward.
Your second question is about projects, is that right?
So it was about accomplishments. Like, are they the currently, like, are they too many, or shall I reduce them? The number of points that I have mentioned in that section.
Which section is that?
So it's
Achievements.
accomplishment,
Achievements.
yeah,
Okay.
achievements, like last one.
Got it. Got it. All right. So first question. All right. How do I communicate customer empathy? Yeah, I think that there's always there's a few ways. If you can describe in your bullets, problems that you have solved that started with the customer, that hey, customer was facing such and such problem, or our customer satisfaction was dropping, and this is what I did. Those things always go a long way. So customer problem solving would be one. Another would be just customer research projects where you just sit and research the customer. Whether it's like listening to a lot of customer conversations or their feedback and sitting with the customers, going on site, and studying them. So anything which helps reflect that will be useful. And then if you just talk about, if you have shipped products, basically shipping products which are very consumer, basically which have a lot of user experience component to it. That'll be kind of a third way to sort of check the box on working in capacities and roles that require you to have customer empathy. All right, your next question is around the length of your achievement section. So you're right that it may be a little too many bullets, but at the same time, you also do not have a ton of work experience. So in your case, I think this is actually completely okay. I wouldn't worry about reducing the achievement section.
Sure. And the next thing is, there are certain areas where we might want to highlight those things. So is it okay to make those points as, in like bold, or
Yeah.
shall we keep everything as the same as it is?
Yeah. I mean, that's a completely stylistic choice. I think one way or the other, it won't really make a difference. So yeah, I would leave it completely up to you. It's like a matter of personal preference, really.
Yeah. And the last thing would be, there are some internships that I have done which are not exactly, the work was not exactly, something that could relate to PM. It was more on the manufacturing side of the things. And given that, shall I, completely remove that and more focus on my current work experience and a few relevant internships that I had done?
Are they already here?
Yeah. So you can see one was at UNO Minda Industries and other was at NIT Kurukshetra, right? So within the experience section. So
So simulations on MATLAB is interesting because that does require you to code. So I would say, if you want, you can lead with that instead of leading with high voltage generation, which is not going to be as relevant. So you can focus on basically running simulations is something which PMs also do. I have ran simulations, not exactly on MATLAB, but they are one way to test your ideas is to run simulations. The other way would be to run experiments. So I would say you can focusing on those simulations and what were you trying to simulate. It's probably more relevant than the actual thing you are simulating, which is high voltage generation. All right. For the second one, I think this is what I mean by I talk a little bit about. I don't know if I mentioned this is about bullet mining, when you're kind of mining for bullets in areas where which wouldn't appear like you have a lot of bullets there, but you can always find things like that, and make sure you highlight those. All right. What is the Kaizen technique?
Yeah, so it's a Japanese technique which is used in manufacturing plants to improve the processes, like increasing the efficiency of the processes.
Okay,
Uh,
that is fantastic. All right. So again, mining for bullets here, I would just focus on, it's less relevant to me that you're, you know, working in auto manufacturing in this case. What's more relevant for me as a PM leader is that you can analyze processes quantitatively and identify bottlenecks and optimize processes. So I would focus on those. So basically, take the Kaizen word and explode it into a sentence or two of what actual process optimizations, and use those type of keywords. They'll be much more relevant. Cool.
yeah, totally. Yeah, got you. Thank you so much for this feedback.
No worries. All right. Any last questions before we move on to Veena and Pawan?
No, I think I'm good for now.
All right. Thank you, Punit. All right. Veena and Pawan, you haven't shared your resume, so I don't know which order we should go in. So I will go in the reverse alphabetical order. So Veena, do you have any questions for me?
And I'm so sorry, I did not send you the resume. And should I email it to you? I apologize.
You can post it on chat as either as an attachment or as a link, however you want, and then we can
post
go
it
through
in
any
the
questions.
chat.
So in the Zoom chat, if you
Gotcha.
open the Zoom chat, you'll see some people have posted their resumes there.
Okay, one moment. You can go to Pawan while I do that in the meantime.
Right.
Pawan, you're ready.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
Pawan, do you have it for me?
Yes, I sent it.
All right, I got it.
Yeah,
All right,
actually,
Pawan, what are your questions?
my questions are, I have mentioned some previous companies project that was before MBA I have done. So should I remove that or it should be there?
Okay. So this is specifically about your any specific work experience, or which work experience are you referring to here? The key product section, is that the one you're
Yeah,
referring to?
yeah, project sections.
Okay. So my question to you is, are you interviewing for product companies like Amazon, Microsoft, or for the like consulting companies like Deloitte, Accenture, etc.? Owen, could you hear my question? Owen, I'm not able to hear you. I'm not sure if others are able to hear Pawan, but I'm not.
I can't hear him as well.
Yeah. So Pawan, let's come back to you once we can hear you again. Okay. In the meanwhile, Veena, I got your resume. So tell me what questions you have.
So essentially, for the last couple of years, I've been working as a business analyst, project manager. I manage everything from the time it is a concept to shipping it out. I collaborate with a lot. I work with a lot of customers, client. I've never had the title of product manager, but I feel I do everything, almost everything what a product manager would do. I'm hoping if you can have a look and give me some suggestions or recommendations as to how I can make it better. I'm honestly afraid to apply, and as I'm not sure if I that it'll be rejected immediately because it doesn't have a project manager title. So would you have any recommendations, suggestions to improve it? I try to be concise. I try to list out things that would be relevant, important, and I do cater to. I haven't applied a lot, honestly. I have applied one or two, and I take a lot of trouble to do very detailed custom cover letters, as
Mhm.
well as any accompanying materials. It
Yeah.
has been good, but it's a lot of effort to do for each and every application. So I'm just, what do I do where people reach out to me rather than me having to apply, I suppose, if you have any
Yeah. Yeah.
suggestions, recommendations.
Yeah, I do. So for product roles, so first of all, can you talk to me a little bit about, what will be like the ideal company in which you would want to work as a PM next?
I'll be honest, I am very fascinated by the payments industry. But I
Okay.
haven't worked
So
with
like
payment.
PayPal or
Yeah,
Venmo and all that.
yeah.
Okay.
But I'm open. Definitely, I'm not industry specific. That would be an area of interest, but I'm definitely open to any, I suppose.
Okay, sounds good. All right, okay, that's helpful. So let me start by saying that I think the right investment of your time is to not write cover letters. The right investment of your time, in my opinion, would be to basically create a resume which is optimized for our product management roles. The reason I say that is because if you think about the process that recruiters and hiring managers follow, they will first look at resume, and only if they think the resume is, they don't want to filter it out, only then they would look at cover letters. In many cases, most of the time, they wouldn't look at cover letters, to be honest. Because they've already spent the time reading through your resume and they already know whether they want to filter it out or keep it for giving you a call. So with that in mind, I do think that I think you have a very strong resume for an analyst. I can clearly see your progression, so I can tell you're a good worker and you do good work. I think we can make certain changes to it to have the bullets be as close as possible to a product manager's job. That makes sense. So I know a lot of PMs who were ex-business analysts and are fantastic PMs, and the leading indicator for that is they're already pretty product minded, even in their jobs as PAs or data analysts. And that can kind of come through very clearly in the way in which you sort of, highlight your accomplishments. So if you're talking about accomplishment, you can talk about it in a way in which you delivered sort of an analysis or you covered some kind of an insight. You can also model your accomplishments to talk about customer insights and product deliverables. That, hey, I looked at this problem that I noticed was happening with our customers. This was my insight, and then I delivered this product improvement. So the more and more you can speak to accomplishments which speak to product changes, product product improvements, and just doesn't stop at informing the business that about a key business insight. I think the more it'll signal that you're very product minded and your heart is in identifying customer needs and solving for customer needs with product solutions.
Thank you for the feedback. In providing those examples,
Mhm.
I've received this that the resume needs to be one pager mostly.
Yeah.
And mine is two pager. and I'm trying to reduce it.
Mhm.
As I highlight these examples, I feel like I might miss out or not highlight another one. In your opinion, if it's a 2-pager, is there harm? Because I'm actually trying to reduce it to fit 1 page. What is, and I've actually removed some experience because I'm trying to make it, I'm listing the most recent, and trying to reduce the bullet points. So as I cite some of the examples like you recommend, and if it goes into 2 pages,
Mhm.
is that okay?
There are multiple schools of thoughts on it. I am from the school of thought that even highly accomplished careers can fit into 1 page. The reason for that is that when you're sending a resume out, you're basically asking somebody to do work to read your resume, right? And if you're sending them 2 pages or more than 2 pages, you're asking them to do more work to get to, a decision on whether they want to move forward with the follow-up conversation after reading the resume or not. So I think I always ask everybody to make sure they can fit the resume in 1 page and make the reader read as little as they possible for them to say yes. It does require a lot of prioritization at your end that, hey, I'm just going to focus on prioritizing this areas that I want to highlight at the expense of others, which may not be as relevant.
Got it. Yeah, no, thank you for that. I am working on making it 1 page and prioritizing what is really important and key based on the job description.
Yeah, and always come at it from the perspective of, hey, what is not, this is a very frequently asked question, it always comes up in resume reviews, is the perspective to take is, first of all, that the reader is trying to just collect enough data points to make a decision on whether, they should say yes or no. So the perspective to take is basically you're reducing their work, and you're making it easy for them to say yes by providing them, keywords, by providing them things in a format and using a language that they understand versus what you understand, and also by giving them only the relevant information. So, if there are things that you have done that is not going to be relevant for them, it's best to just exclude them.
Okay.
Cool. So we are on time. I'm sorry we couldn't get through, Pawan, yours. I don't know if your audio is back or not, but hopefully this was helpful. Like I mentioned, we are experimenting with resume reviews. This was our first week of doing resume reviews, and this is not meant to be an actual resume review. It's meant to be just like a sneak peek into it. That's why everybody has, roughly about 10 minutes in which we clearly can't do a full resume review, but we can answer some questions that you have, just to give you enough in terms of, what's going to be the most valuable thing you can do to improve your resume. If you want to do a full thorough resume review, I am a coach on PM exercises. I've been for more than a year. You're welcome to, book time with me, and we can do, a focus session on resume reviews. Please, because we are doing this as an experiment, your feedback is very valuable. So you will get an email. Please make sure you put in your feedback around, what worked, what would you like us to see improve, and whether we should continue to do resume reviews or not. We'll look forward to your feedback, and based on, what you guys say, we will decide whether we should continue doing these or not. So thank you again for joining. Resume reviews are always a lot of fun for me. I really enjoy doing them. I've done a lot of them. I did them professionally when I was in school, back in grad school a long time ago. but I always have a lot of fun doing them. So hopefully you got something useful out of it as well. Don't hesitate to reach out. I left my email in the notes document that I shared. And then hopefully we'll see you in a future session.
Thank you.
Right.
I appreciate the
Thank you so
feedback.
much, Vishal.
Yeah, take care, everyone.
Yeah.
Good night.
Bye.